Well, just 2 points. The first one is I want your reaction on the ranking of U.S. being ranked fifth in the Big Ten. And the second question I would like to respond to is this latest rumor that Juju Smith, that Juju may not be coming to SC. So those are my 2 questions. To hear your comments. Thanks a lot for taking my call.
Well, feel free to hang on for a minute, Angel, if you want to respond. Okay, so let's hit the first one, Matt. The USC was ranked behind. So we kind of anticipated that obviously going to be behind. We got another call. Hey, Clark, hang on one second. Let's wrap this first one up first. We kind of anticipated that they'd be behind Ohio State, or they'd be behind Oregon. They'd be probably behind Michigan. But then the curveball comes when there's someone slotted in fourth, and that was Iowa. Maybe Kirk his campaign, Kirk Ferentz campaign to kind of just take shots at USC during the entire offseason paid off. But I went around a little bit with I think it was Mark on Monday about this. I mean, I'm sorry, we have Penn State, then Iowa, then USC. Sorry, I'm getting the lineup confused. So I went around on this saying that I feel USC is probably closer to Penn State than they are to Iowa, but according to the poll, the press poll that they have USC slide in behind Iowa. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
Well, I'm not surprised USC's picked to be fifth. I did think Michigan would be higher, but I'm not surprised that USC's fifth because people are skeptical of Lincoln Riley and USC's ability to play defense. And, that's not unreasonable. But, as we've discussed, where I get a little cranky and ornery is that people say Lincoln Riley's not taking defense seriously. You know what? That changed, right? That changed. He had an epiphany. The scales fell from his eyes, saw on the road to Damascus. Lincoln Riley got hit in the face and he realized, oh, yeah, I better take defense seriously. So, it's not as though he's coming back and tripling down on Alex Grinch. He went out and hired a real defensive staff. So that's the part I get upset about, that people aren't giving Lincoln Riley credit for that. But as I told Mark Rogers yesterday on his Big Ten live show, I don't know if you saw that, folks, but if you didn't, I made the point, this seems to be my epiphany about the national media and Lincoln Riley. They're aware of his defensive staff hires, but they think that as long as Lincoln's at the top of that organizational chart, as long as he's at the top of the pyramid, there won't be accountability on defense. I think that's really where national pundits are on Lincoln Riley, that he can make all the coaching changes he wants, but they just don't think that he's going to insist on elite defensive performance. So that's the nuance. I think that, disregarding the defensive staff, a lot of commentators have done that, and that is BS. But to think that Lincoln Riley won't be accountable to his defense, yeah, we need to see that. I'm not saying they're right, but I can understand the skepticism.
I don't know. It just sounds more bullshit to me to have shots at USC and Lincoln Riley. Again, I'll go back to my previous standpoint when we ever talked about USC or Lincoln Riley not caring about or not being accountable for their defense. Man, I have to disagree. I'm sorry. This man wants to win. By all reports, he competes. He competes with his brother. He competes with everyone around him. There's no way I could ever imagine Lincoln Riley being not on top of his team. And also another big thing came up is giving up the play calling, right? And what his role should be as a CEO and et cetera, et cetera. Look, this man is at the top of the game when it comes to calling plays, period. And he did say, hey, look, it's at any point in the future, if I feel that my play calling is actually hurting the team in some way, or I can help, or I need it somewhere else, and I need to relinquish play calling, I'll do it. But it just doesn't seem like the right call when you have basically, in my opinion, the best play caller in college football step down and give someone else. It would literally be hurting your team for him to do that. And I don't think this whole idea is overblown about being the CEO. Of course he is. But what if he has other people on staff that are working with that, and there's other staff members within the department that work on. He shouldn't be micromanaging. He should be giving up what he does great. You do what you do best. You delegate the rest. You delegate a lot of other stuff to the people that should be doing it, not the other way around. Lincoln Riley is an offensive guy. He's a great head coach. He's not doing these head scratchers like we're seeing up in Eugene during game management. We're not seeing that from Riley. If we were, like we saw with Helton and with previous coaches that were trying to do a little too much, then I get it. But until I see that, and until Lincoln Riley shows he's not accountable to his defense or doesn't care about defense, again, I don't know. That just seems like an easy way to take a shot at Lincoln Riley. I'll go with what the players and the coach have been saying. We'll just let it play out on the field. But I think that there's going to be a lot of writers out there eating crow about the way they talked about USC. Sorry, caller. Thanks for waiting. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Oh, wait. Sorry. Wait. Hang on one more second. We went long-winded on that one. Juju, as far as we know, Juju is still coming to USC. He hasn't committed. He's stretching out. People were saying this could be NIL. This could be a bunch of other things. I've heard rumors that he's reached out to Longstreet as a backup. Longstreet came in for a practice late in spring. It's maybe like a backup plan. I think there's all a lot of drama. Until otherwise, you guys, I've never seen a guy who says I'm committed. He has not once said or wavered verbally. People are reading into all of his actions and running with it. So I'll save that rumor until we actually get something tangible from his camp that would show that he's wavering on his commitment. All right. I'm sorry, caller. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, this is Leon, Orlando, Florida. How you guys doing tonight?
Good. Did you say Leon?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, Leon. I remember. Yeah. How you doing? What's on your mind tonight?
Man, things, man. I know we're talking about this different topic, USC and Big Ten Media Day. And let's talk big for a second. Have you guys seen the thread that Rusty put up today, Fight on Rusty put up on the average time weeks for the USC, LSU, Wisconsin, Minnesota State? Looks like USC is going to be okay. I know we talked earlier in the year about getting some bigger plays, getting some zero technique tackles in there, and it looks like Kenny Wiley did his job on the off season.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Those guys, I'm pulling it up right now, Matt. Your thoughts on the body transformations that have been happening since Grinch left and he was putting the order out for what he wanted to see on the field, as opposed to now this year and the shift that they're doing with Danton Lynn's request for how he wants his defensive line to look like and linebackers.
Well, Tim's going to be reporting at August preseason camp, so he'll be able to see up close just what these bodies look like. I'm here in Phoenix at Trojans Wire HQ, so I don't have the same benefit of being able to see this team up close. But, let's just see what we do against LSU. Let's see how these guys are able to hold up against the physical challenge posed by LSU. That's really the long and short of it.
Well, there is no shortage of 300-pounders now, 385, 395, 300-pound. Nate Clifton up to 395. Came in from Vanderbilt as more of an edge guy. But now he's going to be most likely moving inside. Matter of fact, he's listed right there as defensive tackle. So there you go. At putting on the extra weight at 10, 15 pounds on to get to 295. So I think they knew what they were doing. I mean, I didn't have any information, but if anyone's been watching the show long enough, I've been saying, they just didn't really fully sell out to pull guys in for that tackle, that nose tackle position. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me. And I do think that they have something that they have worked out to where they don't need to throw 800 to $1 million at a guy who is a very solid and a conference level player, but he's not a first round draft pick. So I'm interested to see exactly what Coach Henning can do with these guys and the added size that they put on in the offseason. I mean, which is, you guys for out there, it's not easy to put 15, 20 pounds of good weight on. These guys had to work super hard in the offseason to get to these points. So I hope they get the credit that they do deserve.
Yeah, Jade Abessari and Anthony Lucas look like straight. They're like monsters. It's complete. If you go look at what Anthony Lucas looked like last year and what he looks like now, it looks like a total different human being.
Yeah, especially you could see it in the arms, couldn't you? When you looked at some of the pictures from him, and then you see some pictures from him in the spring. Well, you saw it in the spring, and we saw it in the spring. He in the spring when during spring camp, he just looked noticeably bigger, and at the spring game. So it's great to see. I mean, I don't think the whole Oklahoma thing that Benny Wiley's a yoga instructor. I knew that was a bunch of BS. I knew he was just following what he was being told to do by Grinch. And now that he has the new marching orders, the order's up and the plate's coming out, and that's exactly what they were asked for, and that's what we're being given so far.
And the other thing, real quick, everybody wants to talk about Oregon and Ohio State and number 1 and number 2 in the Big Ten. Man, I'm not too sold on either one of those starting quarterbacks for either team. If you look, Dylan Gabriel, 14 of his 30 touchdowns came against SMU, West Virginia, and Tulsa last year. You know what I mean? It's not like he put up 5 touchdowns against Texas or something. And then what's the starting quarterback for Ohio State, the guy they brought up for Kansas State? I'm not sold on him either. I mean, I think we're gonna shock some people, man. I really think we are.
I just don't. I think it's disingenuous the way that the national media have talked about USC and their defense like no changes were made. I mean, yes, there have been some like almost empty platitudes, but when they actually talk about the team, and if you would have heard any of if you listened to any of the not on the main stage, but when they got off to the side stages, smaller stages, just some of the absurd questions that some of the Big Ten media were asking the USC personnel and USC coaches, just are you afraid? It was almost embarrassing the way that they were talking down to like, you're coming to the Big Ten. I mean, you had trouble in the Pac-12. What do you do when you get to face the 85 Bears in the Big Ten? I mean, don't get me wrong here. There's going to be some good defense played in the Big Ten, but I liked Riley's answer. It's not like USC just started playing football. It's not like Oregon just started playing football. It's not like Washington, UCLA don't know how to run the ball. I mean, those are USC probably of the 4 probably hasn't lived up to the trenches and running the ball really hard like some of those other schools have. But I do think that's going to change very shortly.
Tim, are we really going to see some really great defenses with all the Big Ten does, other than Ohio State is run the ball? Ohio State and Penn State, everybody else just runs the ball. It's smash mouth football.
Well, Maryland has a pretty good, they've got a pretty good offense. Matt, you want to fill me in a little more? You're more of a Big Ten guy than me, but it's not just. They're not all Iowa when it comes to offense. I'll put it that way. So don't get it twisted. Not everybody's Ohio State, but not everybody's Iowa in offense. And Iowa is gonna make a big impact. They got a new offensive coordinator. They're hoping McNamara could be a guy. Matt, go ahead. You'd probably be able to fill a little bit more on the offenses in the Big Ten.
Well, the offenses in the Big Ten aren't that great. Like, I think that the conventional wisdom is fundamentally accurate, but you have Oregon, you have Washington also coming in, and like that's going to be one of the main stories. That what's going to be the push and pull in terms of how much the West Coast schools influence how the Midwestern schools, the long-standing Big Ten schools, play, and how much are the long-standing Midwestern schools, going to influence how the West Coast schools play. So like that's an unknown, that's a variable. And remember, the other big variable in the Big Ten this year is that you don't have divisions anymore. So Iowa, Illinois, Minnesota, Purdue, Nebraska, Northwestern, they were all able to play each other. They usually were able to avoid 2 of the big 3 in the East, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan. Now they don't have that escape hatch. And on the other hand, if you're like Indiana, if you're Maryland, if you're Rutgers, you're no longer playing all 3 of Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State. So that's going to be new in the Big Ten, that certain schools are going to get a more advantageous schedule and others are going to have a much more brutal schedule. So that is all part of the picture in the Big Ten. But in terms of USC, you know, and in terms of the way the media treated the Trojans, you know, this would not be happening if USC had won 10 or 11 games last year. You know, this happened because last year was a crash and burn, because USC lost 5 games and looked Charmin soft. You know, if USC looked 10-2 and looked the way USC fundamentally should look, we're not having this conversation. But so, like, I mean, I think Tim at times, you know, rightly points out that the media is a little bit condescending and likes to jab USC. I think that that's partly true, but a lot of this is just USC sucked last year, and we need to acknowledge that. And when Lincoln Riley said we're playing catch up at USC, all right, it's true. He inherited the Clay Helton mess. It's true, as Tim has said, you're not going to build an elite skull crusher offensive line right away, you know, given what you know, Clay Helton did. You're not going to build an elite defensive line right away. Tim is correct about that. But, you know, for the national media to say, stop whining, Lincoln, like at USC, you shouldn't be playing catch up. You know, is that fundamentally unreasonable for the media to treat Lincoln Riley that way? I don't think so. No.
Yes. Here's why. Lincoln Riley hasn't been running Lincoln Riley hasn't been running USC for the past 10 years. Okay? That's why it's fundamentally wrong to blame Lincoln Riley for this mess. Lincoln Riley walked into this mess. Matter of fact, Lincoln Riley saw that mess and said, yeah, hold my beer, I got this. That's what Lincoln Riley did. Lincoln Riley didn't even flinch. He's like, all right, this place is an absolute mess. And fans, we all know it was a mess. And he said, okay, I got this. Now, the problem is the fans and the media that say, you want 11 games. What's the one I love to hear all the time? He brought the best player in football over, and then he lost 5 games in year 2. Like Caleb Williams can be split into 22 different people. I mean, he's one guy, you know what I mean? And we saw the trouble the defense, the offensive line had protecting him last year. That guy didn't just become, you know, having trouble and putting up 20 points against UCLA and Notre Dame because it was Lincoln Riley and it was Caleb Williams. That happened because of deficiencies that started way before Lincoln Riley got here. Would you agree?
Yes.
Either one of you? So,
yes.
I mean, is it a Lincoln Riley problem, or is it it was a USC problem that Lincoln Riley's sorting out and he should have more than 2 years to do it?
Okay, Tim, you're correct. But here's the thing. In politics, and I'm not going to talk about politics in terms of, you know, specific people. I'm just talking about politics generally. Part of the art of politics means winning people over, even if you might privately hate them or dislike them. And you still want people to vote for you. You still want people to think well of you. And part of the art of politics means you don't get to say unfiltered exactly what you think all the time. Sometimes you have to be a bit of a diplomat. Sometimes you have to finesse things. So yes, Tim, it's not fundamentally at its core a Lincoln Riley problem. He did inherit a mess. But should you say publicly at Big Ten Media Days, USC's first Big Ten Media Days, we're playing catch up and we just don't have everything lined up?
Well, not with that voice, though. Not with that voice, it won't work.
Does the national media want to hear that? No.
You know what I want to hear? The truth. And you know what?
I was about to say.
That's the truth. Like, if we can argue, you guys can both argue me. That is the truth. If you want to go, well, yeah, you know what? We're just, you know, this and that, and I just haven't done this. That wouldn't be true. He inherited this mess. He's not pointing fingers. What he's saying is the truth. Were we behind in an aisle? We sure were. Was our roster behind? It absolutely was. You know, so
Tim, and that's
no, go ahead, Leon.
No, I was just going to say, Tim, that's exactly what we want. We get tired of coaches just giving us coach talk. We always say, I wish somebody would just tell us the truth. He told us the truth, and now we don't want to hear the truth. Which way do we want it?
That's fair, Matt.
Coach talk, or do we want the truth?
So he could be one of those guys. And by the way, some of the best coaches I've ever known throughout history of college football, they aren't diplomats, Matt, if you know what I'm saying. These guys, though, I'm not saying he's the guy. So everyone in the chat, I'm not saying he's Nick Saban, okay? But when was Nick Saban a diplomat? I mean, he would say what he was. Oh, well, you can say that because he wins. Why? Why not just have coaches that walk up there and say how it is? Because here's another point. No matter what Lincoln Riley is going to say, there is a portion of our fan base, even definitely other fan bases and the media, they're going to try to attack him and rip him. Like I was listening to a guy on Mark's show the other day. He's one of Mark's pundits, and he's like, I don't really listen to Lincoln Riley. I just think the guy's smug. I really don't like him. And I'm like, you don't listen to what he says and you have an opinion of him? I mean, again, that's the problem in the press. They just, well, I don't like Lincoln Riley, so I'm just going to crap all over him. And, oh, by the way, he doesn't care about defense. Okay, I've heard enough of that. Thank God this season is coming. Hey, Leon, I hate to move you along. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I'm going to get off. I want to give everybody else a chance. But guess what? Phil Jackson always told you the truth. If Michael Jordan sucked, he told you he sucked. He gave you the truth, and guess what? He's the best that ever did it. So let's just accept the truth and give the man a chance to write this season and get us back where we need to be. And I'll get off the phone after that.
Great call, Leon. Thank you so much for calling and appreciate you calling. Sorry I didn't recognize your voice right away. That's just my old man brain not working right. I appreciate you calling back in and being a consistent member here on the show. Thank you.
Oh, man. Thanks, guys. Love the show. Fight on.
Fight on.